So, we have already seen the short-run costs in the previous video. So in this lecture video, we are now going to see the long-run costs of the firms. You already know in the short run, a firm can vary the quantity of labor, but the quantity of capital is fixed. So the firm has variable costs of labor and fixed costs of capital. However, in the long run, both the quantity of labor and the quantity of capital can be varied. So in the long run, all the firm's costs are variable. The behavior of long-run costs depends on the firm's production function, and the production function is basically relationship between the maximum output attainable and the quantities of both labor and capital. So let's see this production function. So the table you see here is basically the production function of the jumper factory, the example that we have been following from the very beginning of this topic, and which is also taken from your book intentionally, so that when you revisit your book, you find relevance. So the table lists the total product for 4 different quantities of capital, and basically the quantity of capital defines the plant size. So if you see here plant 1, it represents a factory with 1 kneading machine. The short-run example we studied before. The other 3 plants have 2, 3, and 4 kneading machines. So if we double the plant size from 1 kneading machine to 2 kneading machines, then various amounts of output that labor can produce are shown in the column headed by plant 2. Also, you can see what outputs with 3 and 4 machines are produced in the production table. There is one thing I'd like you to notice, that diminishing returns still occurs in all 4 plants as the labor input increases. And you can check this by doing similar calculations for all plants and find that output per labor still falls as the labor number increases. So we can say, regardless of the plant size, as the labor input increases, its marginal product eventually decreases. Now, this figure shows the long-run average cost curve, in short, the LRAC curve. The LRAC curve, which is basically derived from the short-run average total cost curves of the 4 different plant sizes you've just seen in the previous slides. And the average total cost curves, in short, I'm sure you remember, is called ATC. So therefore, for the 4 plants, you can see ATC1, ATC2, ATC3, and ATC4. So as you can see here, for output up to 10 jumpers a day, the average total cost is lowest on ATC1. For output rates between 10 to 18 jumpers a day, average total cost is lowest on ATC2. While for output rates between 18 and 24 jumpers a day, average total cost is lowest on ATC3. And finally, for output rates in excess of 24 jumpers a day, the average total cost is the lowest on ATC number 4. And in this figure, when you connect the red dots, the segment of each ATC curve for which the plant has the lowest average total cost is shown by a dark blue curve. And this dark blue curve made up of these segments is actually the long-run average cost curve. And from the long-run average cost curve, we can detect the presence of economies and or diseconomies of scale, one of the most common and major theories of economics which you're going to learn in this slide. So, economies of scales are features of a firm's technology that leads to falling long-run average cost as output increases. When economies of scale are present, the long-run average cost curve slopes downward. So basically, if economies of scale are present, then when a firm doubles its inputs, its output will more than double, and therefore its average cost will fall. Now what about diseconomies of scale? Well, in this case, the long-run average cost curve slopes upward. In this case, for a firm with given input prices, diseconomies of scale occur if the percentage increase in output is less than the percentage increase in inputs. So, if diseconomies of scale are present, then a firm doubling all its inputs would cause its output to less than double, and therefore its average total cost will increase. And finally, we have constant economies of scale. And I think you should be able to figure it out by yourself, as the idea here is pretty simple, where the long run average cost curve will be horizontal. And this time it will give constant returns. So if constant returns are present, then when a firm doubles its inputs, its output will also double. And so its average total cost remains the same. And that's it. With this, I end this lecture and urge you to go through your book. This chapter will actually correspond to all following chapters of this course, and therefore it's very important for you to study all the contents of this topic very carefully, and please don't skip reading your textbook. That's all for now. All the best.